So what we had learned in our previous session was previously we had learned how to jailbreak the phone. So this was the first thing. Then we had understood what all applications we will be requiring for our penetration testing purposes, right? So in that scenario, like what all are like within the CDR, what all are the third-party applications which will be requiring, right? Whether it is FRIDA or objections, how we'll be able to take the access of the device, right, within our Mac, how we'll be able to take the SSH access. So all of those specific things will be we had learned. So this was overall the part where we were configuring our devices, right? So this was the configuration phase of our penetration testing. Whenever you will be starting up with your project, typically you will be going through the configuration stage because you will be requiring various applications and all of those kind of things. But this is a one-time process. So once your device is up and running, and it has all the applications and the device is jailbroken, okay, and it has all the list of third-party applications which are already configured. Typically you will not be requiring to do these steps again until and unless your device is not rebooted, right? As we have understood previously, right, that this kind of jailbreaking technique which we were doing was an untethered jailbreaking technique, right? So at that point of time, if your device is either switched off by various reasons, right, either you are manually rebooting it, or basically yeah, or your device battery is gone, right? So at that point of time, what happens is typically your jailbroken, right, that particular root access will be revoked and you will not be having access, right? So at that point of time, you need to redo those specific steps. But until and unless those specific things are not there, it is okay, right? Basically, you will be able to continue with your next project without this particular stage. Now, from like our next session, right? Our today's session and tomorrow's session, we'll be understanding the first phase of our penetration testing, which will be static analysis. Now, we can tell it as a static analysis, or we can tell it as a recon or information gathering, right? Here, what actually we'll be doing, we'll be going forward with our manual validation on what actually are the things which are stored within the device, right? And within the device, whether there is any kind of sensitive data which is kept or not, right? So all of those specific things will be validating, and we'll be checking whether whether we are able to find any kind of sensitive data which can be regarding a user related information or a application related information, right? System related information has been stored by the application or not within the device itself. Okay, so that is what we'll be understanding today. We'll be covering up basics part, and we'll be covering up one particular test case of it, right? In our tomorrow's session, we'll be taking up other test cases, right? What all are the other places where we'll be checking up, right? So all of those specific things will we are having as an agenda for today's session and our next session. So now let us understand what actually will be in the static analysis, and how this insecure storage will be available within our device, right? So typically what happens is when it comes to applications, typically applications will be storing, okay, many types of data within device, okay, within our phone itself, for better performance or for faster experience. Okay, so typically they will be storing many kind of preferences, they will be storing they will be storing our some kind of temporary data, right? So all of those specific type of things will be available, and it will be stored within our device itself. So we do not have any kind of issue whether it is storing in device or whether it is storing in a separate server. Okay, the issue which we will be having is how the data is being stored, right? So if it is stored in a plain text, if it is stored in a readable format, definitely that will be a vulnerability, right? That is what they do not have to, like, they don't need to do those specific type of things, right? If they are encrypting and storing where the keys are stored in a separate server, right, then it is okay, because anyhow the data will be unencrypted, right? So that is what we'll be looking at within the device. So now that we had understood that applications will be storing many things within the device, right? What all places application can store the data, okay, and what kind of data can we can expect from that particular place. So typically there are five places where the application can store the data. The first one is, and the mostly used one is, SQLite database. Now, what actually is SQLite database? Typically, SQLite database is the smallest database which we can tell. Okay, smallest database within our device, right? So typically, this particular database will be used by our operating system, iOS operating system, as well as it will be used by the application as well to store the data. So data, like the applications can create their own separate database, okay, where while getting installed, and they can import their own details, or they can add, create, modify all those specific things within the database itself. Okay, so basically this is the first thing, which will be our SQLite database, where SQL, like the application will be storing the user related data. So here typically what actually you will be able to find user related data. What I mean by user related data, whatever are the things which we have stored within the application, right? For example, you had stored some of your personal or profile details, right? So while opening the application, it will be greeting you with some of the text, right? Like hello or pita or something like that. Now it, if it is taking from external server, uh, and there is some kind of network challenges, definitely it might take some time to load that data and then show it to you, right? That will be a and if there is some kind of network challenges, definitely that will not be a good experience for the user, right? So instead of that, what actually it will do, to those data which is repeated, or those data which is regularly required by the application, it will be storing in that SQLite database. So at that point of time, while it is showing you that greeting, GIFs, and all of those kind of thing, in the back end, the other data which it needs to take from the server will be loaded, and your experience will be seamless, right? So basically that is the first thing, right? Basically most of our data will be stored within the SQLite database, okay, either in an encrypted format or in a plain text format. Okay, our concern will be whatever are the data which is it is storing, whether it is storing in a plain text or not. So that is what we'll be validating here. Second thing will be there will be one kind of file called plist files. What actually are these plist files? Basically, we can call it as an P means property list files. Okay, what actually they will be storing, as the name suggests, plist or property list file will be containing all the properties of the application which it is installing, right? So basically there will be a file called info.plist or application.plist, right? Application name.plist. So those kind of plist files will be available, and they will be storing the properties. It will be nothing but a simple text format file, right? Either in an XML format, or basically in an normally in an XML format itself. And basically it will be storing all the application related settings, okay, key values, and those specific type of things will be stored. Okay, for example, it needs some kind of key to authenticate to some kind of server, external server, where it is trying to connect the data, or run some kind of backend logic, or those kind of things. So those kind of keys can be stored there. Okay, some kind of tokens which it requires to connect externally, it will be stored there. Any kind of system related, like application related settings will be stored there, right? So all of those specific things will be available there. So this is the second place where we will be checking. Why? Because here we will be getting the server related information, right? So in the SQLite database, we were expecting some kind of user related data, right? Here we will be expecting the server related data, something like sensitive API keys, right? We will be expecting that, some kind of sensitive tokens. Okay, so all of those specific type of details, some kind of file path or internal file path, internal folder paths. Okay, so those specific things will be available here. Now, just to clear, right? Do you know what actually is API keys and why API keys are being used?
No.
So let us understand that before jumping forward. So typically, the first thing is, let us understand what is API. Normally, API is called Application Programming Interface. Okay, so what actually is API, right? So let us understand with one of the challenge which developers were facing previously. Now when it comes to the users, right? Users have multiple ways to access an application, right? Let's assume that I want to access Facebook application. So at that point of time, I will be able to use the Facebook's web application, right? I can use their iOS application. I can use their Android application, and if it is available, I can use their thick client application as well. Now thick client application are not the applications which we are installing within our device. Something like here I have installed Zoom in my device. So okay, so Zoom is a thick client application. Same way, if I'm installing like Teams application, right? Any of the application which I'm installing in my laptop, right? In my laptop, and it is trying to communicate to some kind of external server for backend logic, those applications are called thick client applications. Now what actually happens here is, when it comes to users, they can use any of the application to interact or to complete their work, right? Now the challenge which developers will be facing is, these applications will be developed in different programming languages, right, or different frameworks altogether. For example, if they are developing web application, they might be developing from PHP framework. iOS applications, they might be developing with Swift or C Sharp. Android application, they might be developing with Java or Kotlin. The client application, they might be developing from .NET or any other applications likewise. So now here, what actually will be the challenge will be that whenever they want to integrate those applications, or whenever they want to make communication between multiple applications, that will not be a possible thing, because the framework altogether are totally different, right? So basically, if I'm executing web application and I want to connect that web application with iOS application, that definitely that will not be possible for developers, because the framework altogether is totally different, right? So they will not be able to support each other. So to resolve this particular challenge, so what actually will be impact to the users, right? So basically, if I'm uploading, or I'm uploading for some, for example, some status on web application, as this web application cannot connect with other applications, typically what will happen is, the updates, the status update, I will only be able to see in web application itself. If I open my iOS application or Android application, I will not be able to see anything there, right? Because the communication is not happening. To resolve these particular challenges, what they came up with is called APIs, which is Application Programming Interface, right? Now, what actually are this kind of applications? API applications will be working in the backend, and they will be having the functionality to integrate any type of applications, okay, whatever they want to connect to. So in that scenario, if they want to connect or integrate that API with some kind of two different web applications, okay, one is developed in PHP, another is developed in JavaScript, they can go forward and they can integrate. They can integrate other types of applications as well. They can integrate web applications with that API. Again, they can integrate other iOS applications with that API, right? So API will be used to integrate multiple type of applications. Okay, so now that we had understood what actually API do, okay, let us understand the real-time use case of API, right? Now you might have used this kind of applications, right? PTM, Make My Trip, or TripAdvisor. Now, whenever we try to book any kind of hotels or flights, right? So at that point of time, whenever we search or we filter out based on a specific time, okay, we will be getting the real time prices of multiple airlines, right? Now it is not a static thing, right? It is a dynamic thing where every minute or every hour or every day the prices will be changed, right? So at that point of time, how Paytm gets to know that this is the current price of this particular airline company, right, or this particular flight. So typically what Paytm will be doing is Paytm will be having their own API which will be integrated with all the airline companies which they want, right? For example, there is Vistara, there is Indigo, okay, there is Air India. So likewise, whatever are the airlines are which are available, what they will do is they will be integrating those APIs with Paytm application, and on the real time basis Paytm will execute, or it will execute its own query which will be going to this other applications, right? Vistara's application, Indigo's application, Air India, and it will be able to real time fetch those specific details. Now same thing will be done by MMT, okay, Make My Trip, TripAdvisor, and all the other applications as well, right? So this is one of the real-time use case of the APIs. Second thing is whenever we are having this kind of applications where there are multiple front-end applications, right? Basically, for example, Facebook is there. So Facebook is having multiple front-end applications. It is having its own web application, iOS application, Android application. So it will be able to integrate all those front-end third party like front-end applications, okay, in the back-end API. And whenever I am updating anything with the web like within web application, typically the same thing will be sent over or forwarded to the other integrated applications as well, like iOS and Android application, right? One another use case is like you might have used the food delivery apps like Swiggy, Zomato, and those kind of things. So whenever any person is delivering the food, we are able to see that person, like where exactly that person has been reached, right, and how much time it will take to deliver that food to us, right? So in that scenario also, if Swiggy, Zomato, they does not have that much resources where they can develop their own maps, right? Because creating the maps, right, pinpointing all the streets, okay, how much traffic is available at what street, right? All of those things are very much resource taking. So at that point of time, Swiggy, Zomato, they does not have that many resources where they can develop their own maps, and then they can show you what actually are the things which are available, right? So in that scenario, what will happen is typically this a type of applications will be integrating, okay, their APIs with the other applications which provide maps, right, like Google Maps and all of those specific applications. So at that point of time, after their integration, okay, what we'll be able to see is within Zomato application or within Swiggy application, it is taking the functionality of Google Maps, okay, via their APIs, and they will be able to showcase, right, they will be able to take that particular all the frames and all of those things, and will be able to see Google Maps within Zomato itself, right? And will be able to access the functionality, right? So they will be able to add their own code on top of Google Maps code, right? And basically they will be able to give you those details, right? So typically this is what the APIs will be doing. Now APIs will be working totally in the back end itself. It will not be working in the front end, right? So for authentication, what they will require is they will be requiring one set of a randomized word which is called API key. We can tell it as an API key or API token. Okay, all of those specific type of terminologies we can use, but all what actually it will be doing, it will be having a set of random key which might be 64, 32, 128 bit characters. And typically what will it will be doing is it will be unique per user, something like how we are having password, right? So likewise, so basically application will be able to use that token to authenticate itself to that particular third party application, and then it will be able to take the functionality. Something like here, if you are having Swiggy in their in their application itself, they will be having their own API key, which it will be using to authenticate with Google Maps APIs. Okay, and once it is authenticated, then it will be able to get the functionalities of Google Map, right? Otherwise, unauthenticated applications will not be able to use those functionalities, right? And Google Maps will be charging them, okay, for using their service. So how many requests are coming up from Swiggy, right? That much they will be charging them, okay, based on that is how this business model works. So now that particular key, right, we will be able to expect in plist file, right? So you can understand how these whole things come together, right? So basically they will be having their own API keys, tokens, whatever they are using, right? If they are using some kind of third party applications, so they might be having their own keys, and all those specific type of things will be stored, and they will be stored majorly in plist files, and we will be expecting that particular type of sensitive data within plist files. In SQLite database, we'll not be expecting those kind of things, because there majorly the user related details will be stored. So that is what will be seeing within the SQLite database as well. The next thing will be end user defaults. So basically, what actually are this particular things? This is class type of set, where it will be the application will be taking up based on the user behavior, right? It will be storing what actually is the user behavior, and based on that particular thing, it will be storing that particular details within this kind of files. Okay, let us understand with one of the example. For example, if you are opening YouTube in your iPhone application, right? Many times you'll be able to see that where exactly you have stopped the previous video, right? There only it will be starting that particular things, right? It will be starting that video again, it will be resuming that video, okay, even though you have stopped that application, right? So that particular default thing, right, then those things will be stored here. Second thing will be that whenever our full phone has dark mode on, right? So application by default takes that dark mode, and it set its own preferences based on that particular dark mode itself, right? So basically that is again those details will be stored within end user details. Another thing will be many times we might be using some of the functionalities more compared to other application functionalities. Something like if I open Paytm, right? I use mostly that scanning feature, okay, or I use mostly to self, right, transactions feature. So by default it will be showing that particular logos in front, right, compared to other things like Paytm mall and other things, right? So basically there those things, right, which user is using again and again, okay, so those specific preferences also will be set up in NS user defaults itself, right? So all of those kind of preferences, right, user preferences from the operating system or from the application, okay, will be stored within NS user defaults. Now let's assume that I am using one of my credit card for transaction, okay, or credit card number for transaction. And that is what application thinks that it is my preference, right? So what if it stores that particular card number in plain text, okay, within this file itself, right? So again that will be an exposure to sensitive data, right? So that is what we'll be having here, so we'll be able to expect. So but overall in NS user defaults, all the preferences, okay, of the user will be stored. Next thing will be core data. So within the core data, basically all of the operating system related information will be stored, okay, and basically here application will be fetching up all the details from operating system, whatever it requires, and those specific details will be stored there. Typically the path, okay, where exactly it will be storing, okay, and those specific type of things will be stored there. Last one will be keychain. And now definitely you know, because this is what we have discussed in our first session as well, okay. Basically keychain detail, like in the keychain all the sensitive data will be stored, so, right? So at that point of time, any of the encryption keys, right, all the data which is encrypted will be stored within the keychain, and there also will be able to find the sensitive data, okay. So typically these are the 5 places where application can store data, and within this 2 days, right, today and tomorrow will be understanding all the places, right, how we can validate by going through that particular data and understand whether there is anything which is sensitive there or not. Okay, let us revise it before jumping into one by one to specific things. First one will be SQLite database, right? It will be the database within our device where application will be storing the data. Typically, whenever we will be doing front-end SQL injection in our next sessions, right? Not this week's session, but whenever we will be going through the dynamic testing, right? Dynamic analysis, there will be going through this injections as well. So there will be seeing SQL injection, right? Front-end SQL injection, that will be the injection to this particular database itself. But yeah, SQLite database will be stored here. Second thing will be plist files, where all the properties list files will be there. Okay, it will be a text file itself where the application related data will be stored, right? Internal file paths, tokens, sensitive API keys, and all of those kind of things. Then NS user defaults. So typically in NS user defaults, we'll be able to see all the preferences, okay, of the user. Either they are taken from the operating system or they are from the application altogether. Then we will be having core data, right? Within the core data, we will be able to see all of those specific user related information from the operating system itself. And then there will be the keychain where all the sensitive data will be stored. We will be able to validate whether this particular keychain data can be decrypted or not. Okay, many times if there is a very weak encryption which is set up, typically we'll be able to decrypt it and we'll be able to see it. That is what we want to validate there. So now when it comes to our testing, right, how actually we'll be able to test those specific things, okay, and how we'll be able to validate, right? So for that we need to install few of the applications within our device, right, so that we can make it work and we can access that device, right? So here you can see I am already having my device which is available. Okay, now the first thing which we'll be installing here is, by default, whenever we are going through this particular application, okay, to check, right, the SQLite database, by default SQLite tool will not be installed in our device, right? So applications can go forward and use SQLite database because database is already available there. Okay, but for us as a penetration tester, right, the tool which can fetch the details from the database or from which can access the database for us to get the details, right, will not be available here. So at that point of time, the first thing which we want to do is to install that particular SQLite tool, okay, so that we can have that access and we can work with that. Okay, so what we'll be doing is we will be going with Cydia. Okay, so if like you are using check run or any of the jailbreak method, right, here within the check run itself, we'll be able to see Cydia is already installed, and by default Cydia will be available itself, right? Once we are jailbroken, if the device is not jailbroken, then it will be an issue, but yeah, basically here it will be available. We'll go to Cydia. Okay, what actually is Cydia? Just to give you an overview, right? Cydia is an application. Let me just quickly confirm my network is there or not. Yeah. So Cydia is an application which can be which can give us all the third party applications, right? So typically all the third party tweaks and all of those specific third party tools, right? Third party repositories. It can install it in our device. Okay, and basically we'll be able to see that. Now, once we are having CDR, right, what we'll be doing, the first thing will be we will go to the sources, okay, and here within the sources, we will click on edit, okay, and within edit, we'll be able to go forward and we will click on add, and we will add one repository, okay, which can help us get this particular tool. Okay, so basically by default, right, what will happen is there will be the repositories which can have the specific amount of tools, right? How we were having big boss tools which were already available previously, right? But here what will happen is typically we need to add the separate repos, right, how we are having in Debian, right? We need to add Linux systems or Debian systems. We need to add a specific repository from which they can fetch that particular executable file, and then we can install it within our device, right? So basically here we will be able to add that particular repository first, okay, and that particular repository will be used to fetch that executable file, and then we'll be able to install. By default, if that repository is not there, CDI will not be able to search it within our device and will not be able to add it. Okay, so what we need to add is we will be adding repo dot hack your iphone dot org. Okay, so basically this is the same thing which will be adding. In case if you are doing any kind of spelling mistakes, it is not going to add successfully. But yeah, this is the same thing. Repo.hackyouriphone.org, will be clicking on add source. It will validate. Here within some language, it will give us some kind of warning. Okay, we will just click on add anyway. It will take few seconds, okay, to update, and there might be some errors and those kind of things. It is okay for us. It will not be an issue. It will resolve those particular challenges, and it will add that particular repository. We'll be waiting till this gets completed. Okay, so once it adds, it will be updating our phone, right? For the keys and all of those kind of things, right? For proper validation. So we'll wait for few seconds until it gets completed, and then we will go for that. Okay, so you do not need to press any kind of home button or anything that there, right? You do not have to press your lock screen button till this particular process is getting completed, right? So just make sure that one, like, this process is will be taking 1 or 2 minutes. But yeah, till that particular process is not completed, we do not have to click on home button, or we do not have to come out of that particular things. Okay, and in between there might be some of this kind of errors, but it will not be an issue. Here you will be able to go forward, and it will add it, and it will release it, right? It will install it as well. In my device it is already installed, right? So at that point of time it might show some more errors compared to the normal one, but yeah, it will be totally fine. We will be able to install and use it as well. So we'll wait for a few seconds, and here you can see there are few things which are coming up in red. It is okay, right? By default we'll be able to see that installed itself, so it will not be an issue for us. Once it is done, we will be having this option called return to Cydia. We will just click on that. Okay, and by default here you'll be able to see hack your iPhone, right? That repository is added, right? So here you can see hack your iPhone is there, and typically all the applications, right, which comes with that repository, we can install now, right? So here you can see all these applications we can install, right? So that can be installed, but before adding that repository we cannot install it, because there is no place from where CDI can fetch that application, right? So that is the main reason why we have installed that thing. Now what we will do is we will go to search, right? So basically it will be in this particular place, search, and here we will be going to SQLite. Okay, once you are installing SQL, typically you'll be able to see SQLite 3.x, right? So typically you'll be able to go forward and see. Now here in my system it is showing modify here in the top right option. So here you can see modify. If you are doing it for the first time, typically you should be saying install button instead of modify. In my, I have taken several sessions before, right? So I am having all these tools already installed, so that's why it is coming up as modify. But yeah, by default it should be install if you are doing, if your system, if your phone does not have it, right? So for the first time it will be that only. For now, just to show you, I will just click on reinstall. But yeah, you can just click on install, you can click on confirm. Typically what will happen is it will fetch that data from that repository which we have added, that executable file, and it will install the same thing within our device. Now this is going to take some time, right? It might be taking 1 or 2 minutes for the installation. We are going to wait till then. And again, it will be showing either return to Cydia or reload Spring Boot, whatever it shows that option. We will click on that, and that particular thing will be installed there. Now, once it is installing, what we will be doing is we will be taking the access of our device, right? So how we can take the access? We can, as we have seen in our previous session, typically we can open our terminal, okay, and within the terminal itself we can have the access of it, right? So how we can access, that is what we can see, but yeah, for that we need to get the IP address. So anyhow, we are not going to go out of this particular screen. We will let it load for few seconds, okay, and then we will be executing. So let us wait for this to get completed, then we will take the access. Now in my system, it is like in my device, it is just saying operation timeout, because anyhow it is installed, right? So it is just overlapping, and it is taking up, right? But yeah, in your scenario it will be properly installed, so it will not be an issue, right? This is what I wanted to show it to you, so that is why I have. But yeah, for me it is overwriting, so that's why it is something like this. But in your system it will be, it will be installing, and it will be reloading. Again, once you are installing this third party tools, it will not be shown up in these places, right? These are the tools which are not having any kind of GUI. Here you can see only the apps or applications which you are installing from App Store. So this you can easily access from your terminal, right? This SQLite and all the tools which we have seen previously, you can easily access from the terminal, but you will not be seeing those tools here, right? So how you can confirm whether it is installed or not? Typically it will be shown you here in the install option. So here you can see there is this install option, right? You can just scroll down and you'll be able to see SQLite there, okay, and you can confirm that SQLite is available by default there, okay. So likewise in the installed one you will be able to validate. Second option is, basically we can also install it from terminal as well, okay, but it is specific to this tool, right? In case if you want to install some another third party tools as well, they might not be available in Debian repository, right? So you cannot install it from the terminal. All the other tools, this tool you can install, so you can try that one as well. But yeah, other tools you need to use the same technique which we have used now, right? Installation from the CDI, searching from the CDI, and then installation from the CDI itself. Now first of all, let us take the access of our device, right? So how we can check? So typically the first thing which we need to note down is the connection, right? Which the Wi-Fi connection, right? Both of them should be in the same network. So here you can see I have opened my Wi-Fi, right? Here you can see the hotspot which I am using currently is Pixel 4491. If I show you here, okay, my laptop is also connected within the same network, right, which is 44 Pixel 4491, right? So typically that is the thing which you should be confirming before doing that, right? Because I have seen many people in my previous batches as well. They tell that okay, they are having some issues with the connection, okay, but ultimately they came to know that okay, they are connected through some another mobile phone, right, in their phone, and they are connected to Wi-Fi in their laptop, right? As they are not in the same connection, they will not be able to make this remote access through terminal as well. The second thing will be like once we confirm that okay, both of them are in the same connection, what we'll be doing is we'll be going to here, there is this I button, right? We'll be clicking on that I button, and here we'll be able to see this one, which is the IP address, okay. So that is what we will be requiring to make the connection. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going here in our terminal, we will enter SSH, right, secure shell, to get the access of that system, okay. So how secure shell works? Typically in the secure shell you can enter secure shell, then username at the rate IP address, okay. This is how we need to enter the command. Then we can enter the password, okay. It will be asking us for the password. If we are authenticating correctly, typically it will be having the access. Here the access which you can have is, if you want the normal access, you can enter mobile@ IP address, and if you want the root access, we'll be entering root@ IP address. Okay, typically we will be requiring root access to execute these all third-party tools, right? So that we will require root access itself. So we will enter SSH root@ IP address, which is given here. So IP address which is given here is 192.168.30.159. So here you can see the same thing, 192.168.30.159. In your device, okay, definitely the IP address will be changed. Okay, so you do not have to enter the IP address which I am entering here. Okay, whatever are the things which are available within your device, typically that IP address you need to enter. Once we enter that, it will be asking for the password. Okay, what actually will be the password? Our password is ALPINE. Okay, this is the password, this is the default password which will be coming with this jailbreak. Okay, so typically we will be entering the same thing. Okay, let us enter that, ALPINE. So here you can see iPhone and root, right? So typically this is the password. You can note it down as well. Anyhow, the resources which I will be sharing, there also this particular password is already available. But yeah, basically this is what will be the password. So in case if you do not forget, you can just keep it somewhere, and later on, once you want that device access, you'll be able to have that as well. So once we are having the access, right, we can go to the root directory by entering cd slash, right? So at that point of time, we'll be able to have the full access of that particular system, right? So basically here you'll be able to see the user directory, boot, and etc, right? System applications, all of those specific directories will be having the access to. Now, the first thing which we wanted to validate here was that we want to check, right, the SQLite, right? So in case if you want from here as well, you can enter apt-get install and SQLite 3. You can enter that, and typically this also will be working, but this is specific to this tool because the Debian operating system which here it is using, right, it already has in their repo SQLite 3, right? So here it works. Okay, if you want to install some another tools, right, Frida, objection, right, they might not work, right? So at that point of time, you need to go with this particular option itself. It is much more better. You can just go through the CDR, you can install whatever applications you like, right, and you are good to go, right? So now that we are having that particular thing, okay, let us just explore few of the database, and then we can understand, okay, when it comes to the applications, how actually it looks. So typically when it comes to our device database, there are two main extensions which we can use, okay, which will be available here, right, which will be installed there. So the first one is .db file, okay, and second one is .sqlite file. Okay, these are the two types of files which will be used, okay, to store the local database within the device itself. Okay, so either application can use .db or .sqlite. There is not much more difference between them, right? They can use any of the extension, the data will be same itself. We can the way from which we'll be able to access will be same itself, but many of the applications might support one or another, right, type. So basically based on their preference, they can use either .db or .sqlite, right? Any things will be fine at this point of time. So now if we want to search how many .db files are there, how many .sqlite files are there, right? So typically what we'll be using is we'll be using the tool called find. We can enter -name to give the name argument, and we can enter any file name, okay, and it will search for that file within that folder or that subfolder list. So we are in the same, like we are in the root directory, right? We had entered cd and slash, right? So we are in the root directory. So any file within the root directory, if it contains that db or those kind of things, right, we'll be able to search it like that. So how we can do? We will be first of all entering star.db. Star means any of the name. right? Any name, it will replace any characters with that star, and typically it will be checking whether there is .db or not. Let us go forward and let us enter that. Okay, you might be getting this kind of error, operation not permitted, but still you can see the command is working, right? So it is not an issue, right? We have been doing jailbreaking and all of those kind of things. So typically this kind of errors can be ignored, right? Again, it will be working even though you are getting that particular thing. So here you can see within the keychain, there is the database, right? There are loads of database which is available, right? Log keychain, and within the applications, there are lots of databases which are available, right? So likewise, you'll be able to see those specific databases within our device itself. So here you can see from the operating system, there are loads of databases, and within the application also, right? So here you can see container slash data slash application and some random one, right? So likewise in that also there are multiple database. Here you can see cache database. Likewise there will be loads of databases which is available. Now let us go forward and check for SQLite. So instead of star.db, we'll be entering star.sqlite. Now, why we are entering star? Because we don't know what will be the name of that particular database, right? So we are just entering star so that we can get all the files, right? We will enter .sqlite. Again, here you can see we are getting error, but still the command will work, right? So here you can see still we are getting the result. So those kind of errors, okay, you do not have to focus much more on. Basically our command will be working, so it will not be an issue even though you are getting the error or you are not getting the error, right? It is totally dependent on the jailbreak exploit which we are using, right? And we will be able to see that. So let us wait for a few seconds for this to get completed. Okay, and yeah, you can see it is completed, right? So here you can see config.sqlite, right? Again, health.sqlite, notes.sqlite, right? We are having that notes application within our device. We are having health application within the device. Photos.sqlite, right? So all of those specific SQLite files will be available. Here you can see config.sqlite. Even the applications have their own SQLite, right? So here you can see trace those SQLite. So likewise, the applications, even the operating systems, iOS specific applications will be having their own SQLite database within the device, right? And we'll be able to see that. Okay, and basically this is how it is looking like. Now let us open one of the SQLite database so that we can understand how we can open that, and then we will understand how we'll be able to access that as well. So to access that, we do not have to do anything. We will enter SQLite 3, right? Because that is the tool, and we can give the path of any of the database which is available. Okay, so typically we will just copy this one, this full path, and we will paste it here. Now once it is done, we will execute it. Okay, and here what happened is it has opened that SQLite database for us. Okay, we are not seeing anything here, right? Because we need to enter the commands to see one by one each and every data. What it has done, it has opened that notes.sqlite database for us. What we have entered there, SQLite 3, and then the path of that SQLite database which is available. Now what we can do, now you can just enter .help to go forward and understand what actually you can do within the database, right? But I will show you what we require, right? All of these commands will not be required for us, right? Because these are used by the development team, right, to go forward and repair, modify, update those database. Our work is to view the data from the database, right? So typically what we'll be doing, we'll be entering tables to get the list of tables which are available. So once we are entering tables, now don't forget here dot and then tables is available, right? If you are just entering something like table or tables, it is going to give you any like a null error, right? It is going to give you nothing, right? So again you might get confused at what actually happened. So typically we will be entering tables. Okay, and here it is tables, not table, right? So again, if you are entering table itself, it will not be able to understand, and it will be giving you something like null itself. Okay, we will execute that. So once we are executing here, you can see the list of tables are available, Z account and exit and Z note and those kind of things. Okay. Now let me just open my notes application. We'll click on continue. We will click on new note. We will enter this is sensitive data. We will click on save, and here you can see this note has been saved. Okay. Now what we will do is we will just go forward and execute the table. Okay, and we will see one by one what actually are the things which are available here. So this is the table, right? These are the tables. What we will do is when we want to see the data from that particular table, we will be entering select star from that particular table name. So we will just go forward and copy, and we will paste it up. Once we are having, let me just do it again. Yeah. uh, Let me just enter tables, and now what we will be doing is select star from the table name. So here it is Z1. After that, we'll be entering a semicolon, right? If you are not entering, again, you will be facing the same issue, right? So here we'll be entering a semicolon, because when it comes to SQL commands, it ends with semicolon. Then only it will be able to understand. So now you can see there is nothing which is shown to us, right? So at that point of time, likewise, what we'll be doing is we'll be going through other particular places as well. Okay. So let us go to one more. So here you can see Z underscore metadata. Just make sure that even if it is in the capital letters, make sure you also enter the same thing in capital letters itself. Okay, if you're using some kind of small characters, okay, then it is not going to work. So at that point of time, now you can see we are having something in clear, we are having something in an encrypted format, right? Likewise, let us see whether we are able to get some kind of primary key or not. So primary key. I have done typo. Okay, and here you can see the primary, like these things, right? Not change and property and those kind of things. Let us see not at attachment. So likewise, we'll be able to go forward and see. So not attachment. Okay, we will enter that. There is nothing, right? So that's why it is showing us like that. So likewise, we'll be able to go forward and see and view within the data. Okay, and we'll be able to get the data from the database itself. So now that you had understood what actually is that, right? Now again, if there is, like here we had taken up one SQLite file, right? Again, if you are having same like dot notes.db file, right? Again, you will be entering the same command itself, right? So there is not any, like there will not be any kind of change, if even though if the application is using .db or .sqlite, right? You will be having the same thing itself. So now what we'll be doing, okay, now let us go forward and take one of the application. Okay, what I will do, I will go to App Store. Okay, and I will install one of the application called Mono Notepad. And this is the application which I will be sharing you as a assignment as well. Okay. So this is one of the application. What I have done is, just to save some time, I have already installed it today before the session, before some time. But yeah, once you are having it, you can just install it, and for now we will open it, right? So this is first time I'm opening itself. So now again, this is similar to our notes application itself. Okay, where we can uh, where we can store our data, right? We can install our sensitive data like passwords and all of those kind of things. Now people uses this kind of applications, right? Text editor files and those kind of things to store some kind of sensitive data as well, right? Something like their credit card, debit card details, their CVV details, okay, all of those kind of things, their private passwords, sensitive account details, and those kind of things. So what we'll do is we will go forward and we will enter that. Okay, here I can enter something like password. I can enter here in the note. in the node, I can enter this is sensitive password. We will go ahead and we will save it. Here you can see save is there. Okay, so we have saved it. Now, as we know that this is the sensitive data, we will lock the application. So they are having this lock functionality as well. So I will click on lock. Okay, and it will ask me for a pattern, right? Until and unless we are not having the pattern, this application will not work. So I will just keep a normal pattern. Okay, something like this one. Now it is done, right? So now whenever I want to open that application, okay, so let me just close it up. So here you can see I have closed it. And as I'm having the sensitive data, it is first of all asking to me for the password, and then only I will be able to access that sensitive data likewise, right? So typically from the front end, it looks that application is having some steps where it can take those kind of sensitive like application, right? That sensitive data. Now let us understand whether we can find something within the database or not, right? So what I will do, I will first of all go out of that particular database, right? Will clear the scene. So now you can see I am in the root folder. Now what we'll be doing is we'll be going forward and we will be searching for that particular application related database. Okay, so we will enter find hyphen name. Okay, and we will enter the name of the application memono.sqlite. Now if we don't find anything, right, we can find for .db file as well, and in both of the places we are not finding anything. Typically what will happen is that application might not have any kind of database. So we can first of all look for .db file. Okay, we will wait for a few seconds. We will check whether that it is available or not. And if it is not going to give us some result, right, we can just enter .sqlite and we will check for that. We'll wait for a few seconds for it to search. And here you can see we are having one of the file. Now in the second session, if you remember, typically we had understood, right, that application stores everything in the containers, right? So here you can see this is the container. Now containers cannot access other containers, right? So one application cannot access other applications data, right? And here at that time also we had understood that whenever there is the application name, right, like Android, it does not create the folder for application name itself. It generates a random characters, and there it will be storing. So that particular random word will only be known by that application itself, right? So typically this is how it will be. Now here you can see there is the SQLite database. Now like let us open that. So SQLite 3, and then we will just copy paste this full thing. So I will just copy from here to here. We'll go ahead and we will copy. We will paste it up. Let me just copy it again. And I will paste it. Not sure what is happening, but yeah, let me just try it. Typically it works, but okay, otherwise I will just go ahead and type it down as well. It can work. Okay, my system is in some other mode. Let me let me just open my terminal once again. I think there was some issue. Let us just go to that one. We can enter password. Okay, we can go to our root folder, and then we can search the file. and now it is. So we will enter SQLite 3. We will copy the full path and we will paste it here. Okay, now that it is pasted, here you can see once we have opened it has opened the database and we are into SQLite terminal command line. Now what we'll do is first thing will be tables. So dot tables. Okay, always we have to remember dot tables. Okay, I also within my projects used to do that same mistake. Okay, in hurry I have entered just tables multiple times thinking that okay, there is some issue with my device or their database or something like that, because I have gotten those errors. But yeah, ultimately there we might make this kind of mistakes when we are in hurry or where we don't remember, right? Now let us go forward and open the one by one table. So we will enter select star from the first one. So we will just copy paste it, okay, because it is easy and we might not have any typo there, right? That's why. So we will paste it up, or we can just entity and we will enter single inverted comma. Okay, so now that once we had selected star, right? So here you can see we had entered select star from the first table, right? Let us see what actually is the data which is available there. Okay, so here there is something Apple Watch, create your note, and those kind of things, iCloud, right? Let us see whether the details, and it looks like the data which is available, right, is available. And here you can see the last thing which we had entered, right? This is the sensitive password, and the password, right, is available in the clear text to us, right? Again, when it comes to device, it requires our authentication. So here you can see it requires our authentication to see that particular sensitive data. But here, whenever we are seeing the database, it is storing the same thing in a clear format, right? So this is what will be validating, and this is what the wordability is as well. Whenever it is storing the database, like how we have seen in the Apple notes, right, that it was storing the data in an encrypted format where it was not actually visible to us, right? So that is what we will be having. We should not be seeing something like this. Now whenever you will be doing your projects, right, so at that point of time you might be having other type of data. Here we have seen something like password, right? You might be having some kind of other type of data, something like any other, like passwords or tokens or any of the other user data, credit card details, debit card details, whatever are the things which are stored within our device, right? You might be able to look that. But yeah, basically that is what we'll be checking, and if it is seen in a clear format, definitely that will be the issue for us. So this is how we'll be able to check for the first test case. Any doubts, any queries, anything till now?
No, not up till now.
Okay. The next thing which we'll be looking for will be our plist files. Okay, but here the plist files will require some extra third-party applications. Okay, and how to install. So that is what we'll be looking for. But within the plist file, the same place will be able to see all these particular things. Again, keychain data will be the database itself. Okay, what we'll be doing is because today only you are available, right? So this particular topic, right, will be continuing from our, like, within our next session, and we'll be able to complete that. For today, what I will give you as an assignment is, once you are having your device up and running, then you can try this one, and then we can practice on the next one as well. So in the next one, we will be seeing in the different set of applications. So in the next one, we'll be seeing this particular application, that how we can check for the plist files and those kind of things. Okay, and there we will be practicing. Okay. Do you have any timeline from the Apple Care, or from where that when you will be getting your device back?
Yeah, actually, I spoke to them. They said that lastly by Tuesday I'll get the phone.
Okay, sure. That is good. Okay, so yeah, so basically this is what we'll be having now. We will be in our next session, right? We'll be seeing all of this. Okay, how to check for plist and user core data at once, because they are the files which will be available within the similar, like same folder. So basically we'll be able to see and we'll be understand how we'll be able to complete our static analysis from here itself. Okay, any doubts, any queries, anything till now?
No, no.
So let us join in the next session, and then we'll be able to understand the next topics as well. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
bye
Thank
Arpita,
you.
have a great
Yeah,
day.
bye.